Hi, I'm Susan. Welcome to my studio. Today I want to show you the really neat things you can do with this simple filigree. So I'm starting out with these filigree pieces. I got these from Tiny Pandora. These ones Teresa's already scoped out and I thought they were really interesting, and many of you would probably say, I didn't know I could incorporate these into my polymer clay. Of course you can, and there's so many cool things you can do with these. I'm just going to make earrings out of these. That's kind of big for an earring. Yes, it is a little big for an earring. It is almost 3.5 inches long. So 3.5 inches long would be a lot longer than most people would want for an earring. But who says you have to leave it that length? You can take your pliers and just bend these. And they're very thin, so they're really easy to bend. You could bend them with your hands, but I find they're just easier with a plier. Match them up, and now, unlike before, here's another one, where the back isn't finished, both sides of this are finished automatically. And look at how beautiful that piece is. So now I have a double finished side, and it'll be a lot easier to make an earring. So let me bend all of these pieces for you. I'll bend one again, just to give you an idea. So I don't put the plier directly in the middle and bend around it. Hold it a little off to the side, and then bend it so that you get that fold right in the middle. That's really important. And match it up before you press the fold down, because it's a lot harder to get it matched up once you've bent it. And then I just take my little pliers and push it down. Now the holes have to match up, otherwise you're going to have a hard time stringing this up as an earring. Now with this one's my most favorite one. This one gives a really cool shape. So you can see I'm a little past that hole, and then I bend. Because if you try to do it in the middle, trust me, we've already played that game, it doesn't work really well. And now I can just take my pliers and push that in just a little bit, and the holes match up perfectly. Now look at the shape you get. Isn't that a beautiful shape? I really just like this shape. It's almost like a crown. You could use it either way. You could have it dangle this way or dangle that way, whichever way you like, but I really love the shape of this. It's so beautiful. It gives a very similar shape to this one. It's just, this is like metal lace in my mind, and lace is one of my most favorite things. So filigree is a natural favorite for me because of the lace feel. I have a thing for lace. Make sure you match it up before you crimp it. So I've got it all matched up perfectly on both sides. Now I'll go and crimp it. And now many of you are probably wondering, ooh, the circle, what are you going to do with that? You could leave the circle large if you're into a larger piece, and there's nothing wrong with that. That could be really pretty. But not everybody's into this big of an earring. I know I am, but I recognize not everybody is. So another thing you can do with this one I find easier to just bend with my hands and then crimp it. They each have a little bit of a different give to them. This one I just find easier to match up, and then go back and take my pliers and just crimp the ends. I really love this one. Wait until you see this one finished. It's just different. So there you have the half of that. Now you could hang it this way or sideways, either way you want, but it gives you a different canvas once you fold it in half, because the thing I like about folding them is they're not finished on the back. So you can see the back kind of looks, and when I fold it, I get a finished piece on both sides, which is so cool. Now, how do you decorate them? That's the big question. Now, I'm starting off with some clay that I've run through on a number 3 on my pasta machine. I have a 3/4 inch cutter, just a circle. I'm using this just basically as a base. And I feel like everybody's got a lot of circle cutters, so I always try to use the circles a lot. If you wonder why I'm always using circles, I think everybody when they first buy cutters always buys the circles. Now I have some liquid clay, and I'm just painting this right where that circle's going to go with liquid clay. Now the other way you could do it is just paint the clay with the liquid clay. I actually prefer to do both. And I'm just going to press that into there. And now I'm going to flip it over and do the other side. This side's easier because you already have the clay there to show you where to go. And because I've got that metal there, I really want the clay to adhere to the little holes in the filigree so that it's basically the clay holding the clay, not the clay holding the filigree. Here's just a piece of white paper, and I'm just going to press that down. I have a glass top table so it would stick to the table. And this way I'm pressing the clay into the clay through the filigree. So now when I put the wet clay on, I have a base for that clay to stick to. Where the filigree really is not something that, clay doesn't really like to stick to metal. It likes to come off of metal, and this will keep it from coming off. Now here I have some of my pieces of filigree, when you look at it sideways, that are going up, they're going out. We're gonna fix that. It usually will bend right back. You could do it with your fingers, but it's actually easier to do it with a plier. There we go. And that's a lot better. Now I can do my design, and I'm going to do a design on both sides of these just because I can. I like having a design on both sides. If you want, you could just do it on one side that people will see, leave the disc up plain on the other side. That's really personal taste. But for me, the more design I get, the happier I am. So I'm going to do it on both sides. Now I'm going to take my cutter, and I've got this green clay, and I'm just going to cut a circle out of this green clay. And I've got this beautiful kind of berry colored clay. It's a little bit pearl. And I've got both circles there now. All I'm going to do is cut these little guys up into quarters, and I'm just going to roll them into a little teardrop. Just like a clock, I'm just going to put them opposite of each other. And I'm making the bottom one just a little bit longer so it pulls down that tail. Now the neat thing about this filigree, it's very thin, so it weighs nothing. So you can make a really larger statement earring that doesn't weigh a ton, so it's really comfortable to wear. And opposite of that, I'm just going to put my other little teardrop. And there we go. So we've just got the four right off each other there. Now I'm just going to take my needle tool and press it in. That way it really embeds into the clay, and it has a beautiful design in it. It forms a much nicer shape now. And if you like, you can do the same thing on the other side. I just don't want to do it in front of you because it's like watching paint dry, watching me do that over and over. Now I'm just going to do the exact same thing with the pink clay, or rose colored clay. And right in between there, just going to put my little drops. What I like about these earrings is they're great if you're doing a craft fair or something, because they give you a quick product that has a lot of statement to it, and they don't take you forever. And once again, we're just going to press this down. Now it will be a little bit more challenging doing the backside one, but I just hold it from the sides like this when I press it in, and you'll be fine. You may not want to do it on both sides. That's really up to you, depending on how you like to finish your work. Now here I have some gold clay rolled out on a number 3. I've just rolled everything on a number 3 just to keep it easier. So I just put a little bit of gold leaf on top of this gold because I want that extra sparkle. This is one of my favorite techniques. I love anything with gold leaf. I think it just adds that extra sparkle. And I just have a little plunger cutter here. This is just a little plunger flower cutter. And I'm just going to cut a little flower out. I'm just going to define the petals because I can. And that alone looks super pretty. But I can take it a little bit further. First, I'm going to use a little bit of this gem sticky from Tiny Pandora. And she did give me a pink brush that was absolutely gorgeous. In some place I lost it in my studio. So I'm just going to use a toothpick because I'm not good at keeping things. I need to put things away. I'm sure I'll find it after I'm filming. So I'm just putting a little dot of it in there. Now, if you don't have this, use liquid clay. Since I have it, I like to use it. But if you don't, that's not a big deal. And I'm going to use a 10mm Shanton that I also got from Teresa. Now that's going to cover most of my flower. But once I squish it out, you'll see this little tiny edge of gold leaf, and that's what I really care about. Now, would I put a rhinestone on both sides? Absolutely not. It would make the earring too heavy. And this is my favorite tool to push my rhinestones in. Just a straight up pencil eraser. And now you can see what I mean. How that gold leaf just pops out just a gentle little tiny bit around the flower. So if it bothers you that you don't see enough of it, don't add the gold leaf. It's okay. I like the way I see it, so to me it matters. But you can see you get this beautiful design. And now this shape is my favorite shape. It looks like a crown to me upside down. I don't know why, but I'm going to once again take my little pieces, and I've made 4 just so I could do both sides. So now for this one, I want to use a cane. And once again, I'm going to paint the filagree and the clay. That way that liquid clay kind of gets goopy in the middle, so where the clay doesn't meet, the liquid clay will meet. We need all the insurance we can get, and liquid clay is such a small thing for insurance, I can't resist but to use it. So there I've got my circle on one side, and you see it's kind of thick now that I've folded it, so we've got a lot to go through. So that's why I feel like all the extra clay is important. Because if you've ever put clay on anything metal, you know what happens. It pops right off unless you have it completely around something. Same thing with glass. Like it has to connect on glass. So with the metal here, it's connecting in the middle. And so we're sandwiching it together, and I just want to make sure I press it in really well. And so I'm pressing that all together. And now you see I've really got those nicely on there. So if you don't want to use the paper and squish it on the table, you just squish it with your fingers. Make sure you see that filigree come through. Make sure you know it's got really good contact in there, and then you're safe. The green just talks to me. So we're going to use one for each earring. And now I'm just going to do, once again, the same little teardrop, like a clock. An impressive look. The filigree makes them look so expensive. Yes, this shape is my favorite. There's all different shapes. These were the most intimidating shapes, and that's why I picked them. Teresa actually had some other shapes, and they were pretty straightforward, so I didn't think they were as fun as these because they were kind of obvious of what to do with them. And these were so long that they were kind of awkward, so I thought they were more interesting. Now I want to put some canes in there. Petal leaf cane. I love this one. I like the blue mixed with the pink. And you can put 1 or 2, however you want. I want some of that pink to still show, so I only want 1 in between. Now you could even switch these up and have different color canes all coming around it. I haven't been that ambitious. I actually just like the simplicity of 1 color in them. And then I'm just going to take my needle tool and fold these in and out a little bit. And what I love about adding the canes, you almost don't need the rhinestone when you add the canes, because the canes are so decorative just to start with. And especially with that little bit of gold leaf popping, look how pretty that is. That looks like I spent 2 days on it. We don't have to share that part, do we? And so I'm just folding that and taking my needle tool and just spreading out those leaves so that they come around it. Look how pretty these are already. I love them because they look like there's so much work in them, and you know I've only spent a few minutes. Now once again, I've got my gold leaf over some gold clay. Now these, I'm only going to put some tiny rhinestones in, so I want to define the petals. I'm doing it right between where the petals kind of go in. And if you don't have any rhinestones, these are just gorgeous the way they are. You don't even need to add rhinestones once you've got the gold leaf. Take that petal and push it in. Look at how it just changes that up. You know what? I put rhinestones in every other pair. I'm going to not put rhinestones. We're going to just put some clay in this so that you can see what it looks like when you don't have rhinestones, that it's still quite beautiful. Here, you know what? I'm just going to cover the whole flower in liquid clay, and then I don't have to worry about sealing it. The liquid clay will seal that gold leaf right in. And let's put some turquoise clay in there. This looks like a nice color. And when I want just a tiny, tiny smidgy of clay, I like to roll a little snake and then cut the end off so I know that's clean, and then just cut 2 pieces. So there I have 2 perfect pieces of clay, and I don't have to worry about them not being the same size. So now I'm just going to put my needle tool in the center just to give a little definition. Now I will finish these off on the back the same way. So you can see how that cane really dresses up that design from just that plain little clay. And I'll show you these once I've got them baked and finished. Now, this one's the one that a lot of you are going to be like, what the heck? It's one of my favorite ones. Now here, I've just got some pearl clay. So this one is the 1 1/8, and I'm going to just take it and I'm going to cut 2 circles out, 1 for each earring. So now that I've got my circle cut, I am going to put my liquid clay on the whole circle. And then I'm going to, of course, do the filigree. This one has a lot more holes in the filigree, which actually makes this one easier to stick. So we're just going to drape this in half over this whole piece. I can see it here where I see a little bit of the filigree coming through in the texture, so I know it's stuck on both sides. Now I've got this beautiful lavender color, and we're going back to my 3/4 inch cutter. I use this one for probably most everything I do. And once again, we're going to cut this up into 4s and make our little teardrops. So it's almost the same design on all of these. Either you're just adding a cane or you're in between the teardrops, but it does give such a nice effect. So instead of doing the 4, we've got the 3. Now I've decided to pick the center and the 2 sides. You could pick all of these little designs however you like. This is just what works for me. So pick whatever makes you happy. Doesn't matter, there's no rules here. And you could do this all with just little pinches of clay and it would be really beautiful. I always like to throw the canes in because it just adds so much more to it. This is just the pencil stroke flower. It was a little piece of cane I had left over. I actually try to leave an extra couple inches of the petal canes before I assemble the flower. I love just the petal part. The unassembled flower I can sometimes do more with than the assembled flower. So I'm just going to cut some canes to fit in between there. And these don't all have to be the same cane. They could be different canes. And see, this one will fold over the top. Now he has unfortunately cracked because he doesn't like folding. So what we're going to do is we're going to coerce him to wake up. Because he's an older cane, he cracked. And I think it's more important that I leave this in than cut it out, because I think more of us have this problem than less. So see how it's just, I'm blending it together? And just wake that up. I'm using a knitting needle to wake it up. And I'm also embedding it into that pearl clay, so I know this guy's going to crack as I fold him over. So I'm going to be a little bit more gentle with him. Yep, there he did. But that's okay. We're just going to coax him slowly. And remember, all of that's going to be covered with the same design on this side. Just going to press that into the clay and make sure those petals spread out. And this is a really old cane. It must have been sitting there a while, just the end of a cane. But see, it worked out just fine. You have, this is where you have options. You could have 1 in the middle, or you could have a bunch with 3, which is what I was thinking. I think 3 would look really pretty. So what I'm going to do is take my needle tool and define these out. They look so rough until you define them out. So I'm going to do the 2, 1 on each side. and then one in the middle, so I have like a little flower bouquet. Before I put that flower on, I want to define these flowers. Now, you'll learn as you work with filigree, hold the edges. It can be awkward if you try to hold the middle of it, you'll be squishing your clay. So if you hold the edges, it's fine, and it doesn't bend. Since I folded it over on itself, it's a lot sturdier. And see how that's spread out quite a bit? So it makes you decide whether you want the third flower or not. I wanted the third flower to overlap the other two, and that's why I defined those first, because trying to get underneath there would be so difficult. And now you can see how different that looks. And I want to add a little rhinestone to the center. Once again, I'm going to take the gem sticky from Tiny Pandora. And I have a whole jar of toothpicks sitting on my table, but the one that's all gunky and used seems to work easier for me. And now I also got these from Teresa. And let's see which, oh, I like the pink ones. These are really cool. Let me see, they have these little slots. And they, oh, look at the pink ones will be perfect. And I can just pick them up out of the box. And just embed those real well in the clay now. And here we have the finished earrings, and you can see how you get this beautiful little droplet just created by this beautiful filigree, and that was pretty simple. And this is the pair that I didn't put the rhinestone on the back, I just put the little gold leaf on the back. I thought that was more than enough because I didn't want the weight of the rhinestone. So I just want to show you what the finished designs look like. This is that same piece folded in half, and I've gotten these two earrings out of that same piece. Now here I just used two little connectors with some jump rings to make them hang, and that was all there was to it. And here I have some simple filigree once again, the same type, but I've used some crystal rondelles and some rhinestone rondelles on top of a pod and some crystals on the top, and you can see how I simply switched it all up. Here I've kept it simple, just folding it in half, that same design on both of them, and just a crystal on the top, so you can see you can create any kind of design you can imagine. You can keep them simple or make them complicated. And this one is my favorite shape. To me, this just has that kind of fleur-de-lis look to it. I love the shape of these. I love the way you can dangle anything off the top or the bottom. Wait until you see how versatile this design is. But most of you looking at this wouldn't be too sure what to do with it. It's almost way too big for an earring. Kind of a nice shape for a necklace piece. Could go either way. I'm sure I could do lots of things with that for a necklace or a pendant. But I love it folded over for an earring. It's really fun, easy, and beautiful. And here I've just added little dangle drops to the bottom so that they hang so nicely. And it just depends which direction you use this in, what design you get. I really, really like this shape. If I could pick one, this would be my most favorite. And here, this shape is such a unique shape. I like the way it points down, gives you this beautiful flow with the body. And how just adding a few little crystals at the top, I added a little dangly one in the middle there, really switches it up. And I love these big Chanton rhinestones, they're so sparkly. Now here we have the circle that I've folded in half, and you can see how it becomes this beautiful crescent and how it just hangs so daintily. It looks like it would be much bulkier than it is, but the filigree really makes it feel much lighter. Now you could use that, of course, as a circle, but I just used it in half because it was a little bit different and I thought that was a little bit more fun. So many of you are wondering, what happened to me that I don't post as much on YouTube? Well, I've kind of outgrown YouTube as an artist. YouTube is a very restrictive space and they don't let you do everything you want. So I have moved to Patreon. I have my own channel there. And you can see a lot of my older videos and a lot of newer videos. The newer videos are a lot longer, they have a lot more content, and they have a lot more that I can explain. So there's a lot more creative freedom there for me and for you. So if you're interested in more videos like that, come join me on Patreon because I'd love to have you. And thanks for watching.